What's up, everybody? Beautiful Saturday morning here in the North Carolina foothills. Nice 50 plus degree morning. Little breeze blowing outside, and it's brew day for me. Excited about it. I'm not going to go through the whole big process. This is my second all grain brew with my outdoor equipment. And like I said, I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm just going to give you a few updates on some things I've done and just kind of do some spotty stuff here and there. But one thing I'll show you is if you look back at my last video, you know it was all dirt right here. And I mentioned that I was going to get a concrete pad poured, and I did. So that's all done. So that'll make a nice place for us to chill out in the afternoons or mornings. And it makes a great place to brew. So got the brew burner set up, keggle burner set up, and got me a little ghetto windshield made for it. Should work okay. It's a little windy here this morning. I was going to try to be as efficient on my propane use as I can, so hopefully it'll help a little bit. Got a Victory Hop Devil IPA kit all grain from Austin Home Brew. Austin Home Brew, y'all rock as always. Here's a big old fat bag of grains. Oh lordy, 3 pounds, 8 ounces of 2-row, 8 ounces of Caramalt, Munich, 8 ounces of Crystal 60, 8 ounces of Munich, and actually there's another, the way they divide it up, it's 8 more pounds of 2-row, so actually there's 11 pounds, 8 ounces of 2-row, so the total grain bill's right around 13 pounds along those lines. Hops. Bittering hops, 2 ounces of Amarillo, 8.2. Oh, and it does have a 4-ounce addition of maltodextrin for body. So 2 ounces of Amarillo, 8.2 for the bittering hop, 60 minutes. For the 15 minutes, we have, it calls for a half an ounce of Kent Goldings. They sent me 1 ounce. I'm debating on whether to use the whole ounce or not. And also a half an ounce of Amarillos. For both of these are for the 15-minute flavoring. This is 1 ounce of Amarillo for the last 5 minutes aroma, and then it calls for a half an ounce, which is as a 1 ounce, so half of this for 15 minutes flavoring and a half ounce for dry hopping. Also bought me some 5.2 stabilizer. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. I don't have a pH tester. I've seen a lot of guys just, toss it in their mash every time regardless. I need to get a pH tester, I guess, and try it. But just on a whim, when I was ordering some stuff, I went ahead and ordered the pH tube balancer. I'll just toss a teaspoonful in there, and it'll be right either way. So anyway, going to get the burner fired up here, get my strike water going, and I'll show you some other things here in a little bit. Well, I have the grain in the mash tun. Got my dough in going. Loving this system. Everything's coming out good, just like my first all grain did. Got my strike water up to 175 degrees on the burner and put it in the tun. 15 minutes later, I had it down to 165, 164. Beer Smith said 162, but my grain temperatures were a little lower than they were last time, and I don't think I remember putting that in. I didn't go upstairs to look, so a couple of degrees different. So I went ahead and did my dough in at 165 degrees, I believe it was. Yeah, 165. By the time I got to 13 pounds of grain in, started up good, I was right at my strike temperature, 150 degrees. So all nice and comfy in the tun with a little warm blanket over it. And a couple of minutes in, so in about an hour we'll be ready to do our first runnings. While that's going on, and before I start sanitizing some stuff, I want to show you a couple of things I've done. I had a immersion chiller from early on when I started brewing, and it was originally this outer part, this bigger part that you see. The input and the output side was only this tall, and I used it in that kettle on the stove, so that's why it was that small. Well, when I built the keggle, of course it's a whole lot taller. When I got ready to do my first all grain batch about a month ago, however long it's been, I realized I was going to need, taller and taller inputs and outputs, and I didn't want to go cutting everything. I didn't really have time, so I went out and just bought another roll of 20 foot of 3/8 inch copper tubing and made this one that you see on the inside with the longer inputs and outputs to use in the keggle. And I hope this wind's not blowing hard enough to where you can not hear me, but I'll step back a little bit and so I can talk. That worked okay. On my first all grain brew, it didn't get my temps down as quickly as I wanted. So this past week, what I did was combine the two. I was going to use one as a pre-chiller in ice. I've seen some people do that with good luck, but I decided to go ahead and combine the two to see what kind of effect I get. And as you can see, I took the original and just cut it off right here. You know, I've got the water coming in, and as it goes through this inside one, it comes back up and goes through this one where I connected it, and it'll go through the outer one and then come back out this one that I added on right here. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping it'll get my temperatures on down. It's a whole lot cooler today than it was too. Another thing that I'm having a problem with that I didn't realize when I built this keggle, as you can see my dip tube, my pickup tube, the way it's made, when I put my immersion chiller in, I'm sure that's really loud. As you can see, it doesn't sit flush on the bottom. I'm hoping it leaning over like that. Of course, I'll have the tubes pointing out some the other way so I can get my water out. But I don't know. I don't know quite what to do other than redo my dip tube to go around the edge. I know some people angle them down. I have seen people notch their immersion chillers. I don't want to do all that. I don't want to go through all that. And some people take the dip tubes and angle them down here and then go out. So I don't know. I don't know what I'll end up doing. I'll see how this one goes, and if it doesn't get the temperatures down like I feel it needs to, I'll do something different. But live and learn, right? I'll show you a couple other things here in a minute, but I got a couple things to do, so let's move on. Just want to talk to you about another little issue I've been dealing with, trying to figure out what to do. The last couple of batches, well, the last 3 batches I believe, 2 of them's been brewing the bags on the stove, and the first all grain that I did about a month ago, I've used paint strainer bags for my hops. And the last all grain that I did, it was a Bridgeport IPA. Didn't quite come out, you know, like I wanted as far as the hops. I put that toward going over my boil volume because, you know, it's a new system, and I went like a gallon over my boil volume. So I just wondered if that's why the hops didn't get utilized as well. I've been reading this week on Homebrew Talk and some other places that have been talking about using hop bags and getting proper utilization from the hops by using those bags. A lot of people, you know, just toss them right into the keg or kettle or whatever and don't worry about it and use false bottoms and strainers and all that, and I don't have that, so that's why I've been using the paint strainers. Steel Jan, I know you used a 5-gallon one on your last batch you did on your video, and I said something about using the 1 gallons, which is what I've been doing. Even if it's just 1 ounce of hops, I'll use separate hop, you know, 1 ounce or 1 gallon bags for each ounce or each addition. And I assume that would be enough space for the hops to move around in the boil. I don't know, people said there is a difference, and they've gotten different results from using hop strainers, hop bags, to not use them. So I do have plenty of 1 gallon bags that I've been using, and I got a bunch for today to use for my hops. And I've also had some 5-gallon ones that I use when I do a brewing bag on my stove for my boil kettle. I believe, just to make me feel better, I'm going to try the 5-gallon ones, kind of like Steel Jan did in her last video. Just hang it over the side. I know there's a modification people do to use PVC that sits over the top of your boil kettle, and you've got arms going out that sits over the kettle, and it just hangs down in the kettle, and you just put your hops in, and you know, whenever the time is. And I don't have that set up, so I'm just going to, I believe I'm going to put my hops in this bigger bag and tie it off, clip it off to the top of the kettle, you know, to the rim somehow as it's boiling, just to see. Don't know. We'll see. This recipe, this Victory Hop Devil, calls for American Ale number 2, 1272. But it hit me that my last brew I did, which was a hoppy fat tire, used the same yeast. I don't think I videoed anything on it or mentioned it, but I do have a 2-gallon batch of it's a fat tire recipe, hopped up a little bit, since I love hops and love the caramel and biscuit flavor. I thought I'd give it a shot. A guy on another forum had done the recipe, and I upped the hops quite a bit actually. But what I'm going to do is this. This is a 2-gallon batch, and I'm using, if you can see this in the dark, I'm using the old Mr. Beer keg. This was a brew in the bag on the stove, 2-gallon batch, just as a sample batch. If I like it, I'm going to do a 5-gallon batch. But since there is a nice layer of yeast on the bottom of this bad boy, and since it's the yeast that I need, why not use it? So at first I was that beer is due to come off today. It's been in the primary 2 weeks. That's as far as I'm going to go with it. I'm not going to do a secondary. So I was going to wash the yeast. I read all week long about washing yeast and pitching on yeast cake and doing, you know, all the story goes on. You know, there's a different concept for everything. There's 500 different ways. Everybody's got 500 different opinions on what you should and shouldn't do. I'm not going to wash it. I'm going to keg off of that yeast cake here shortly, and leave just a little bit of, maybe a 1/4 inch of beer on top, and swish it around and get my slurry good and run down so I can siphon it off, and I'll siphon that off into the fermenter for this brew. So we'll see how that goes. Just want to give you a quick update on the beer I made yesterday, the Victory Hop Devil. Got done with the beer probably about 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. I was done cleaning up and everything by 1:30 yesterday, so it was a really good brew day as far as, you know, getting things done and moving on pretty quick. I missed my target gravity by almost like a 1.5 points. It was like supposed to be like 1.067, 068, and I come in at like 1.052, I think it was. I don't know what's going on with my efficiency, but you know, we'll get it dialed in. And I was off on my boil volumes big time. You know, my first batch, I'm gonna get through this real quick. My first batch I did was a 5-gallon batch, and I didn't know my system, so I decided to up the boil volume because I was afraid my boil off rate would be too much. So I wanted to end up with 5.25 gallons. So I started out with 7.25 gallons and only boiled off a gallon in an hour. So that's when I overshot that, you know, that first batch by a gallon. And so with this gallon, by the time I got my first runnings, and I double batch sparged, I had 6 gallons. So I thought, well, a gallon, I'll boil off a gallon, so I have a gallon boil off. I'll have 5 gallons left over. Well, I boiled off 2 gallons and had to add a gallon of water. So I don't know what's going on with that. It may have been because I was using the windshield and had more of the heat, you know, going on to the keggle than I did the first time. I don't know. But anyway, 5 hours we were gone for a little while, came back 5 hours later, and the fermenter was already churning, bubbling already. And I just want to show you this morning. Got the 1/2 inch blow off tube. And like I say, it's not quite 8 o'clock this morning. So it's been less than 12 hours. And I'm going to try to zoom in on the action there so you can see it. So there you go. I'm going to change that water out and get it cleaned up a little bit. But yeah, I don't know what happened with my gravity. Like I say, it's close, and still to be my second batch. I guess I'm doing good, but wished I'd have got my boil volumes dialed in a little more on that last batch. I was wanting to get this one on up there, but I think it'll be a good beer. the sample was pretty bitter, so it's going to be a good IPA, I hope, either way. So